Hello and welcome, everyone. We are super excited about the conversation today. To let you all know, we've got Jill Muggy with us, and she is going to do an awesome job giving you some great ideas, tips, and then she does have something for you at the end. So excited about that as well. Many of you are used to this. I do see some new faces, so let's cover a couple of things real quick. First off, Jill has generally offered to make her slides available to you afterwards. So yes, you will have access to that. In addition, you will receive an email from me that will give you a link to the recording from today's conversation. And I will be copying Jill on that email, so you will have her email address there as well. So that's going to give you all kinds of good ways to get this information. All right, so to let you know, Jill is a lead generating expert for the coaching community. She refurbishes defunct websites and turns them into money-making machines. The days of the traditional website have expired, so today coaches want a website marketing strategy that works for them to deliver new sales on tap. Please welcome Jill. And Jill, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody. I am very excited to be here. Kathy, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm always really excited to share this new and exciting information about websites. And we're going to get going here. I thought I was going to get going.
So there you go. Now we see your slide.
Sorry, technical errors. Okay. All right. So today I want to talk about generating business from your website. And it's one of those pain points for everybody that has their own business. Everybody struggles with it, and particularly because we've entered somewhat of a new era in web design. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that and ways that you can make some changes on your website to start generating those leads. So what we're looking to do today is look for ways that we can develop and we can get a steady stream of those A-class clients. We want those clients that are our ideal clients. And once you find the ideal client, they're going to value what you do and they're going to pay you for it. So positioning yourself as an expert is also something your website can do. And I'm also going to share with you some tools today that put my business into overdrive. I was on vacation this weekend, a much needed vacation, and I generated, I lost count on how many leads while I was having fun in the mountains. I'm from Denver, Colorado, so that sort of goes into a little bit about me. That's me there, Jill Muggy, pronounced sort of like the weather. And I've been in marketing for 20 years. I've done my stints in the corporate world and the corporate environment. And like I said, I live in Colorado. I love skiing, mountain biking. My biggest accomplishment was going to the Tour de France in 2007. No, I did not get to see Lance Armstrong, if you were wondering. And I was married late in life, so I was a real single girl for quite a while, but I'm now happily married. Okay, so how are we going to get clients from your website? So before I start here, let's do a quick poll, and if Kathy would share with me the results. How many leads are you getting from your website per month right now? A is just under 5, B is over 5, C, you have no idea.
All right, everybody, start typing in your answers. So let's see. I am getting A.
Yeah.
I think I'm sensing a theme. Now I got a C. I got a C. I got somebody else said A.
Okay.
So, okay. Yes.
Well, that doesn't come as a surprise. You are not alone at all. And the reason why you're not alone is because the world of digital marketing has changed right out from under you. So even if you've built a website within the last few years, you might have seen some of your leads start slowing down or have gone non-existent. And that's because a lot of things are changing, and we're going to talk about those today. So one of the reasons why this change has come about is because there are a massive amount of websites on the internet right now. So I built my website, my first website, in 1994. Please don't do the math and figure out how old I am. And that means that there were under 3,000 websites on the internet, which, to put into perspective, is 9,300 people per website. Then in 2007, 1.2 million websites, and that was 11 people per website. Can you all see a trend going on here? We are now at 1.2 billion websites in 2017, and that is now 3 people per website. And in fact, when I did this slide, this is now already out of date. There is 1.8 billion. So that is obviously under 3 people per website out there. And so what does this all mean? It means that the internet has a lot of websites, and getting your message heard out there is really difficult. We had an old philosophy, and you may or may not have heard this before, but we used to go by the build it and they will come, and that no longer exists anymore. We are now building websites. We've moved away from web design, and now we start moving into website strategies. Because just because you put a website out there, getting it seen or heard or recognized, it's just really, really difficult now. So we've transitioned into website strategies. And a website without a strategy is like buying a car without an engine. So it just means that that's what's propelling us, and that's what's driving these leads. So let's take a look at what some of these website strategies are. I break this down into 3 categories. There's traffic, and the traffic is people coming to your website. So things like SEO, pay-per-click, Facebook ads, anything that's sort of moving people towards your website. Number 2 is the conversion, and that's where we take a cold lead. A cold lead is somebody that knows nothing about you or your business, and we want to convert them into a warm lead, which is somebody that maybe recognizes your name, or you're starting to build some trust and they're getting to know and like you as well. And then finally, the nurturing stage. And the nurturing stage is basically a follow-up campaign. So we typically use email for that. These 3 components, these 3 silos that we use now for websites, every one has to be present. If you're just driving traffic to a website, and this is old convention, right? So if you've talked to SEO experts or pay-per-click experts, they'll tell you to start driving more traffic, and of course that means that the dollar amount starts going up, and they just start throwing as many people as they can at a very low conversion rate. Under 1% is usually what was happening. Now what we're doing is we're plugging the holes in the website so that when we drive that traffic there, you're capturing opportunities. So every single person that comes to your website is now an opportunity to turn them into a fan of yours. And then the last piece of that is the nurturing campaign. And this is gold. Once we've established ourselves and somebody's shown some interest in us, they might not be ready to buy from us yet, and so we continue to talk to them and to follow up. So I'm going to cover 4 different areas, and we're going to concentrate just on the conversion. We might touch a little bit on nurture, but mostly we're going to focus today on the conversion. So number 1 is knowing your client, organizing your actions, being contactable, and then we're going to talk about the content on your website. So let's dive in and start with your client. Now, I'm pretty sure if you've been in business for a little while, maybe you haven't, it will sound familiar if somebody asks you who your ideal client is. We hear a lot about that. In fact, I think I was reading an article recently from the IFC about that, and guiding individuals. And knowing your ideal client is the place to start. But there's a little caveat to that, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. So here are my 2 gentlemen, and each one of these very good-looking guys represent a website. So one of these gentlemen is fresh and young and handsome, and the other one is wearing a purple vest. So what we learn about this when I have clients come to me, they're typically asking for Mr. Purple Vest. They want something that is gorgeous and beautiful, and that totally makes sense. That's how I build websites for almost my entire career. And our gentleman here on the left is, well, he's delightful, but maybe not necessarily exactly what we were looking for. We talk about building our ideal client and understanding who our ideal client is. When someone like this shows up, it makes much more sense to build a website where there's a match for those 2 individuals. So my beautiful man on the right-hand side, it just doesn't work, and it's not the language in which they're speaking. So hopefully that gives you a visual as to what we're trying to accomplish here with an ideal client. So your ideal client is the foundation of just about all of your marketing strategies. It determines your content. It determines your copywriting. It determines what images you're going to put on there. It determines where you're going to do your ad campaigns, or you're going to buy advertising, or you're going to market your website, and what language that you're going to use. So a lot of folks come in and they say, but Jill, I already know who they are. I want really wealthy clients that have a lot of disposable income, that are delightful and don't question anything that what I have to say. And yes, we definitely all do, and they're out there, and there is a way to capture those individuals. But before we even start, we have to learn about that individual. So we need to narrow them down a little bit more specific than just somebody with maybe disposable income. We want to understand their dreams, their fears, their likes, and most of all, their pains. And from there, people buy from emotions. They don't always buy the feature. I'm sure you've heard this before, that people don't buy features because when it all comes down to the same, we all are doing a lot of the same things. The difference is addressing not just the pains, that you understand them, but showing, well, we'll get into that into social proof and things like that, but really it's all about understanding who these individuals are. And usually the first piece of information, or the information people give me back, is sheer panic, because the idea of narrowing down an audience just sends panic. And I can relate to it 100%. I can tell you I have sat at my desk crying because I cannot understand how it's beneficial to me to cut out business from other people and just to focus my attention on one particular area. And what I've learned, my aha moment with this was understanding that this is just a marketing strategy. It doesn't mean that you can't service everybody else. It just means that we only have a certain amount of money in our marketing budget. And so you want to narrow that down, because talking to everybody is really, really expensive. And it's almost impossible to get heard over your competition. Right before we went on live here, I was talking to Kathy that I used to work for Subaru of America. And when I joined, I had no idea that, because I always lived in cities where Subarus were really big cars. Everybody drove one. And I got there and realized that it's not a very big company. In fact, it's very, very small compared to the other ones. And we had an ad agency that was ginormous. They handled Chevy. They handled budgets that were millions and millions of dollars. And Subaru didn't have that budget. And we struggled so hard to break into different markets. Well, they were eventually fired, and we brought in a smaller agency, and one of the first things that they did is they started to isolate who drives Subarus. They really started to niche down. And one of the really strange things that we found out was that people who drive Subarus, I was like 93% of them have a dog. So that was great information. And so from there, in fact, if you've seen a Subaru commercial lately, a lot of them, depending on your market, will you'll see dogs driving on there. And it's because that relates, that's speaking that client's language. And our sales just went skyrocketed once we niched down. So it works, and it also saved us on our budget. So the big question is, so where do you get this information? It's not like everyone just volunteers all of this, these pain points to learn learn about the pains and fears and dreams. And so these are some of the places where I went to go learn about my clients. Forums are a fantastic place to listen to and read what's troubling folks. What are they struggling with? Amazon, particular books that they might read, some of the reviews. LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups are golden. Listen, there is no lack of complaining on the website, on the internet. So finding this information, people are very forthcoming with it when it comes to blogs or Facebook or whatever the case is. So there's all kinds of information out there. Now, if you haven't already done a client profile, sometimes we call it a client avatar, I highly recommend going back in and redoing it and addressing those emotional components. If you haven't done one and you don't have some sort of form or something to access that, I've made available the ones a little bit modified than what I use with my clients, but this is going to get to the heart of it. So feel free to check that out and go on there, and you can download that workbook, and it's going to take you through all of the key questions that you want to ask. And I recommend spending some time with it. I get a lot of people will just throw it back going, okay, done. And the more you know, trust me, it will work. So I spend a lot of time on this, and there's a particular reason, because this is the foundation. So I really want to hit home of how important it is to understand the depths of your ideal client. It makes all the difference in the world. So, okay, moving on to our calls to action. So a call to action is basically telling the visitor on your website what you want them to do and giving them a good reason to do it. And there's two types of calls to action. There's a primary call to action, and there's a secondary call to action. And each one is defined by how far along the person that's come to your website is in the sales process. So a primary action would be some sort of button or some sort of direction that says, hey, if you're ready to buy, then call me for a consultation. or download this ebook that I'm making available. Oops, sorry, that's the next one. Or call me. It's more interactive. It's a little bit it's a little bit further along in the sales process, and I jumped ahead. So the secondary call to action is for somebody that's not quite yet ready to hire you or to invest in your services just yet. And so we don't want to lose them. That when someone comes to your website, they are so valuable. And so we want to find a way that we can continue to build a relationship with them. And I might say an automated relationship with them, because that saves all kinds of time. So what we use for our secondary call to action is some sort of, I put on there, downloading an educational thing, for lack of a better word. It's some sort of piece of content. It's a piece of information that you give your ideal client that they are willing to pay for, but they pay for it with their email address, where your email address has now become a currency. So once they've said, okay, you know what, this is worth my email address. We now have their email address, and now we can drop it into our nurturing campaign, because they're not quite ready yet. And maybe we just need to tell them a little bit more about us and how we help, and some case studies of things that we've done for other individuals. Now that piece of content that's either downloaded, it can be a checklist, it can be a workbook, it can be a calculator, it can be a quiz. That piece of content is called a lead magnet. Seems pretty obvious. And lead magnets are one of the leading ways that we're generating leads now. And so we get the idea of our lead magnet from understanding the fears and the pains and the pain points of our ideal client. So are there any questions just yet? I know I've been talking on quite a bit here. Has anything, did I even breathe yet? I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I have a great question. I have somebody that said, I am just getting started. How do I figure out who my client is?
Boy, that's a great question. You pick one. I mean, I know that sounds really difficult, but you want to find, there's all kinds of processes, and the first group of individuals that you pick might not work out the first time. You don't give up. You just keep walking down the pathway with them. Usually what works is sometimes industry specific works really well, and it works sometimes well from the traffic standpoint. So in other words, if your target market were interior designers, people that own their own interior design business, it's really easy to find groups of them there. And so, and they all speak the same language, they all have the same pain point. And so that's an example of a group to find. But that's it. It can be very difficult, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an industry. It can be a community. It can be a location. So if you're servicing just maybe your small community, that can be a niche, but it's something that everybody sort of shares in the same pain points and dreams and goals and so forth, because the language that you're going to use in speaking with them, you want it to be relevant to this group. And it's okay to be small. That was the hardest. It was so counterintuitive to narrow things down, because it seems as though that, you know, why wouldn't you cast a great big net? And it's just so expensive. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I think that was great. And one of the things we talk about, in addition to industry specific, based on what their experience is their network. You know, where does their network come from? And then another thing we talk about is their passion. Who do they really want to work with?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, because within that, within a particular group, they might not always fit as an ideal client, and that's okay too. Saying no is to a particular client is okay to do so because it leaves room for that other person to show up, and you want to maximize your effort. And that's part how you start building value in your services. So yeah, those are, I'll tell you, my heart, because I realize you're just starting, just jump in is all I can say. I mean, I speak from experience because I dragged my feet for so long, and if I could speak to the person years ago, that's the advice that I would give myself. It's just jump in, start, get your footing, because once you build the structure for it, once you start to understand where to go, how to speak, what works, then it's just substituting the content in and out. So
yeah,
and just jump in.
Perfect.
Good. Anything else? Are we
Nope,
doing?
I think you're good now. Let's, I'm sure we're going to get more as we get toward the end. So
no worries. I'll keep checking in and realizing I got to take a breath in here somewhere. So, all
right, everybody, if you're going to help her out and let her take a breath later, be ready to type your questions in.
All right, here we go. So the next piece that is really important to build on your website is being accessible and contactable. So what I mean by that is I built just a little checklist here to show you just a few things that you can do on your site that makes it easier for people to contact you. You would be so surprised. It's just something that somehow we forget. We forget to put our phone number in a place where it's accessible. Maybe not over the top, maybe not like how the auto industry used to do it, the dealerships and the big starbursts, but subtle enough that somebody, if they want it, they can find it. A lot of times, what I'll see is a contact us button, which is great, which is fine. But it takes more effort to click through for the website to load and then to scroll down to get to the contact form. In web design now, we have 3 seconds to talk to individuals. The people that come to our website have the attention span of about 3 seconds. And we have to get our impression and we have to get our message across super fast. So if we have it accessible with the phone number, it makes it really easy. And there's a really cool trick that you can do with the phone number. And depending upon if you already have an existing website, or if you're putting one together now, there's a little bit of code that you can put on the phone number. So if somebody's going to view your website from a mobile device, particularly a phone, you can add a link to the phone number so that when you click it, it will automatically call you, which is super cool. In fact, I just tested it, I think it was last week or something, and it came up on, I could FaceTime that person, which I was not going to do, but it's still available. And that makes it super easy for someone to contact you. It seems really obvious, but it's typically left out. The other thing is a contact page or a contact form on every single page. Typically, I put my contact forms in the footer, just off in maybe one block, either in thirds or something, but always have that available consistently across your website, because things that are more predictable, it makes it easier and faster for people to find it. So they scroll down for a couple of reasons. One, to sometimes find menus, maybe submenus that they didn't see up above, and contact forms now. So you want to add that contact form in addition to your contact form page. Instant chat. Just in the last month, I've received 2 clients off of my instant chat. And so the instant chat is, you jump onto a website and that little operator from the very bottom of the screen pops up saying, hello, how can I help you? Is there something I can show you today? That is absolutely invaluable. That has, I mean, just in the last, like I said, month, I've signed 2 clients from that lead. In fact, I was talking to a colleague not too long ago, and she was doing a website for a university, and she made very few changes on the website, very, very few. But one of the main ones that she did was that instant chat, and it exploded their business. They really struggled. So that is a huge tool to be able to put on there. And if you're using WordPress, they have tons of free options out there. I'm not 100% sure if like the Wixes or Weebly's, if they have them. They might, but you might want to take a look at that and look into that. And the last one I have on here is mobile responsiveness. And so you might have heard of a website being responsive as just a fancy term for saying that when the screen gets smaller, when your browser gets smaller, whether it's on a tablet or a phone, that the content, that all the words and all the images shrink down like water, so it doesn't run off the screen. Most sites now are mobile responsive. Not all of them, but most out there are. And Google has now decided to penalize websites that are not mobile responsive. So it used to just take a neutral stance, and now they're saying if your site is not mobile responsive, then we're going to ding you in the, we're going to take away points in your rankings. Really interesting. In 2014, this was a big year for mobile because mobile devices surpassed desktops as far as accessing the internet. There were more mobile devices accessing the internet than desktops. And so it's super important to understand that a huge portion of the individuals that are going to be looking at your website are going to be looking at it from either their phone or their tablet or so forth. Like I just launched a campaign a little while ago, and probably 90% of my traffic is from mobile devices. So it's kind of nice because I've got some ways to watch to see how people are interacting with my website, and so I can see if there's something out of whack on a mobile device, something that I just didn't catch, and so I've been able to go back and do that. But we really want to make sure that that's accessible for everybody.
Jill, I've got one question that I'd love to have you address before you move forward because it's so pertinent to what you were just talking about. Mm-hmm. How do you staff your instant chat if you're working with clients and not sitting at your computer waiting for the instant chats all the time?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's, I get that question quite a bit. And depending upon the chat that you use, you can always set it to away and have the opportunity to have them just send you an email. So if you're not just sitting there all by yourself, then it's a really easy way. It's just another contact form, really, is what it turns into. But if you are sitting, I set my alarm for, I have my office hours from 8 to 5, and I set my alarm, and that tells me that I need to open up the chat. If I'm going to be on a call or if I have something else, I set it to away. And so anybody that's trying to contact me, I put, they can just send me a message directly. So, so that's the best way to handle that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You bet. So, like I said, those are just 4 little ways that you can make yourself more present on your website. And I have another checklist available for you, some more goodies, some more resources for you. And it's just my website with /checklist. And I have 47 of these points that go through everything. And it also includes a map of where things should go and arrows to point to it, and gives little descriptions of it. It's it's my most popular resource, and it's really, really great to, if you're building your site or if you're looking to do it on your own, or even if you have another developer doing it, get to understand it and even share that with your web designer, so that you are staying accessible and contactable and generating all those leads. So, everyone got that? Again, we'll have all these available for you. So
I'm getting people saying thank you.
oh, hey, you're welcome. Okay, content. So this is a big one, and when we talk about content, it's sort of an industry word, so I try to avoid it. But what I mean by content is it's basically anything on your website. It's the copy, it's the images, it's the videos, it's any of the pieces of information that your website is being built around. So I'm sure if you've been around, you've heard content is king, and it's true to a particular point that valuable, relevant content is what Google is most interested for. And of course, we're talking about the traffic piece of that when we talk about Google and driving traffic. So one of the challenges that we have, and again, I'm going to go back to the ideal client, and the ideal client is where you're going to learn how to speak to that client. You want compelling copywriting. I know this happens all the time that I have writers. I have lots of writers as clients, and the International Association of Coaching, I redid their website about a year ago, and incredibly smart people involved in that. In fact, just the coaching industry as a general rule, I think, are very highly educated, especially going for certifications and so forth. You guys are super, super smart, and sometimes it works against you when it comes to writing copy for your website. Because, so I had a client, he was another coach, and he was a corporate coach, and he was a transformational coach. Did I say that right?
Yes.
And that was the piece of information, that was his feature that he spent tons and tons of time studying and going forward, and that's what he would talk about. And as we dug into some of his ideal clients, the individuals that he wanted to work with, it just so happens that I was married to one of his ideal clients that he was going after. My husband works for Molson Coors, and he's in IT, and he was going through this transformation. Molson Coors had just bought Miller Coors, and so there was this huge merge of these ginormous companies, and so there was all kinds of chaos going on, and it was really difficult to deal with. And so I interviewed him to do some little market research, and the challenge was words like, pardon me, transformational, and all those words that we use, even in my industry, people don't know what that means, and so they get lost. And that was one of the things. Pardon me one moment. I have a little frog in my throat.
While you're taking your sip of water, Jill, I just got to say I'm laughing in the background because when you said transformational coach, I thought of something completely different than somebody working in a company going through that kind of transformation. So that is so funny.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things that this coach, in learning about his business, he spent maybe about 30 minutes describing to me what that means, what transformational coaching means. And my fear was that if it took him 30 minutes to describe it to me, how was he going to communicate that to somebody else who's only going to give you 3 seconds? And so we had to merge that, and we did a lot of testing, and we did a lot of revamping some of the language. And compelling copywriting is copywriting that, and I know you've heard all this, so there's features and there's benefits. And so people buy on benefits. And it's true. However, in website copywriting, we've gone almost 2 more steps deep. So there's features, there's benefits, there's the outcome, and then there's the result or the transformation. Funny. So so those are the 4 areas that you want to hit to make copywriting compelling. So a particular feature of transformational coaching, that's the feature. Or I sit down and I spend an hour a week with the individual and we talk about things. The benefit is you start feeling better. You come out more confident. The outcome is what those feelings, how that's transformed how that's affected your professional and your personal life. So now that I'm feeling better, now that I feel more confident, I now can ask for that raise that I've been wanting. And so the outcome would be, well, we hope a raise, maybe not necessarily, but that would be some sort of, or maybe it's I quit my job. I quit the job that I hated doing. So that's the outcome. And then the transformation is the piece that, like, have you ever seen ads where you just see this really skinny, beautiful, fit, tan woman holding these diet pills and, oh, I took these and now I have this gorgeous body. And pretty much, I don't know what goes through your head, but mine is like, oh, well, okay, where did you start? 3 pounds higher? I mean, that is so unrelatable for me. So the transformation is, if we had a before and after, maybe she was 100 pounds heavier. And so that has so much more impact. So in that example of transformational coaching, or that coaching piece, is we would say, as an example, my clients went from being depressed and eating because they were so unhappy at work and they were scared they were going to lose their job. They went through my magic with all of the stuff that you guys learn through the little magic box, and out came a more confident person who quit their job or got the promotion that they wanted, that they had always wanted. So in copywriting, that's the difference now that we start talking about. And one of the biggest and the hardest pieces to absorb is that we don't use I in copywriting. Now, obviously, everyone says, well, what do you do for your About Us page? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And the About Us works great. And here's the hardest piece to sort of take in, is people don't really care if I was a ski instructor, that I went to the Tour de France, that I worked in the corporate environment. That on itself, my clients don't care. What they care about is, how is that going to affect them? So if I'm going to tell them that this is who I am, what that means for you is you're going to have a fun, energetic experience. I'm going to be able to relate to individuals in the corporate environment so that we can get to the heart of the pains and start delivering some results. So whenever you use an I statement, you want to make sure that it's followed up with a you statement. And a really good term to use is so that. So my services are the best so that you can generate leads from your website. So those are golden tips to be able to use copywriting that is really geared towards these individuals, towards these ideal clients. I talked to designer, an interior designer yesterday, and he called me and, I want one client a year. That's all I need, but he has to be worth $1.6 million. No pressure there. And he said, but all I get is people that want to have me change out their toilet. And so I looked at the copy on his website, and all the copy is really geared towards lower end individuals. And so he was astounded that we could develop some copywriting skills that were going to speak specifically to that high-end $1.6 million client that he needs just one of. So anyway, so that's copywriting, and I spend a lot of time on it because this is really where things, like I said, start tying back into that ideal client. Number two, when it comes to content, this is one of the areas that I see a lot. It's been tradition that we put a testimonial page, one page of all the testimonials on there. And what we're finding is that visitors, your guests on the website, don't typically go there. And they certainly don't go there as page number 2 or 3 or even 4. And so now what we do is we pepper in testimonials or social proof to back up a claim. So what that means is going back to that transformational coaching, right? So Jim would say, I am a highly skilled master coach. And then the testimonial below supports what it says. So Jim Bob says, working with Jim was incredible. I going through that process, I was depressed. I didn't want to come to work. My employees were angry with me. I was angry at them. Sorry. And then, I worked with Jim. He worked his magic, and now I'm happy. My personal life is fantastic. My marriage with my wife is fantastic. And so using social proof helps support that. One of the first questions I usually get, how the heck do you get your client to say those things? You don't make them up. But what you can do is after you've worked with a client or even in the middle or at some point working with a client, ask them these 3 questions. What are you struggling with before you hired me? Talking about those pain points. How did the struggle affect you personally and professionally? And how did that change afterwards? Those are the 3 questions, and you're going to be able to use that as social proof. And those testimonials are then used and peppered throughout your website. So it could be one on the home page to support a claim. It could be in the contact. It could be in the About Us. It can be everywhere. But it typically has been moved from and having its own page. So it just gives it more power, and it's and it supports with what you're talking about. I'm taking a breath. So are there any?
I'm thinking, I'm going, okay, that's something I got to work on. So yeah. That's my reaction on that one. Let's see. And I've got somebody whose comment was they really like that IU. So excellent advice there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is good. And it's, I will also say for the people on the call that have gone through our training, a lot of the tips you're giving are tips we use in our work with clients. So in our coach notes, when we send notes to the client, that kind of thing. And then also that we talk about when we do our program on business and marketing. So it's a lot of fun to hear you saying it.
Yeah, typically the website has, especially if you're starting a career, you're starting a business, your first instinct is, I need business cards and I need to get a website. And, it's scary to throw down that investment, getting a custom website. And so a lot of people do the do-it-yourself, and those totally work. The challenge for sure is that it then sometimes becomes an online brochure, and we judge how good the website is. Okay, I work with a lot of interior designers, and they're so visually oriented, and they want it to represent their artistic brand, and it's sometimes a battle that, not a battle, but a point of discussion where we have to talk about what's important, kind of going back to that slide with the gentleman in the purple vest and our guy with the roses, that it's much more important now to have a website that is geared towards that client. I have seen it with my own eyes, websites that are the ugliest thing. And I'm like, why would somebody ever spend any advertising money driving traffic to this ugly website? And then I find out it is making, and I'm not kidding you, $1 million a month. Like,
nice.
I'm like, okay, that is not my business. That is totally other business. But yeah.
Oh, because I know we're going to run out of time. I have another question here that's really good. She said, do you then ask them to write a testimonial based on those 3 questions, and can they do it anonymously? Because coaching is confidential and they may or may not want to use their name.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. You would want to make sure that they're comfortable with that, and maybe they're comfortable with using the first name only if that's the case. And if that's still not anonymous enough, then I think that's an area where you would have some leeway to put in Jane Doe or whomever, or a not, or something to the fact that you want them to be able to know that it's not fake, but that there is someone behind there, but only at the expense of and the permission of the individual. And yes, those would be the 3 questions that I would ask. These are the 3 questions that I ask my clients. And so, and that handles the feature, benefit, outcome or result, and transformation. And so you hit all 3 points with just those 3 questions, and it makes it easy. And that way you're kind of guiding what you sort of want to hear, because nobody's going to know to give that to you. So, so yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so just concluding up. So we talked about the strategy. It's traffic, conversions, and nurturing. The conversions is what we talked about, and then we just touched on how that conversion plugs into traffic and nurturing. Getting to the pains of your ideal clients and where to go to get that, adding those calls to action, the primary and the secondary, being contactable, compelling copy, and of course proper testimonial. So listen, I have really enjoyed my time with you guys, and I'm available for some questions, but I also wanted to make myself available to you folks who just attended this to offer a personalized website audit for you. And basically what I do is I go in and I take a look at your site. I evaluate it specifically about the things that you can do. Then I give you 3 to 5 actions that you can take immediately to start making progress towards generating those leads that just start rolling in and getting those A-class clients calling you and valuing you. So to take advantage, unfortunately, I have a limited amount of time to take some for next week. I've got room for about 12 for next week. If you really, really want to be part of that, I can schedule for the week afterwards. So feel free to shoot me an email. You're going to have the slides available, and it'll have my information on there as well. But I would love to help you, guide you through that process a little bit, and look specifically at your site. Or if you don't have a site, we can kind of talk about where you should go from there. So thank you, everybody.
Awesome. All right. So let's see. Everyone, by the way, Jill has said she's going to hang around now until the top of the hour with an opportunity for you to ask questions. You can type them in the question panel, and if you want to come on live, if you raise your hand, we'll unmute you so that you can come on live and ask Jill your question that way. So Jill, to let you know, let's see, here's what we've got. Please tell us again the 4 items on the compelling copyright writing. She said the 3rd is outcome, the 4th is transformative. What are the first 2?
Yeah, so features,
Okay.
benefits,
Okay.
results or outcome, and then the transformation.
So features, then benefits, then results,
and
the outcome, and then transformation. Awesome. All right, excellent. And I've got a bunch of people saying thank you, that kind of thing. I've got somebody asking for your email again. To let you know, on Jill's email, I am going to send everyone who registered an email giving you a link to the recording, and I will copy Jill. So you're going to be sent her email address in just a very short time period. So you're going to have it. Excellent. Let's see. People saying great stuff. I'm getting so many positive comments. It's like, all right, everybody, this is your chance to ask questions. What do you want to know? Your big opportunity here.
And that's okay. Sometimes this information just takes some time to absorb. Again, feel free to reach out if you've got some questions later on down the road as well.
All right, awesome. And Jill, I'm going to invite you. We do have our group on LinkedIn, so I'll invite you to join there. I'll post a link to today's recording, and you can come in and comment or whatever you want to share there, so we'll make it available to people that way as well.
Oh, I'd love that.
So excellent. And it's so fun because we've got a lot of great coaches on the call, so this is exciting.
Yeah, good.
All right. Other questions, everybody?
So is there something out there that you guys think that you can implement right away? Is there something that kind of gave you a spark and said, I can do that. That is something manageable that I can do immediately.
All right, give us your input, everybody. What idea or tip did you get today that you see yourself using right away? Let's see. I've got somebody saying the I statement and then using you immediately. Somebody else just did that too. I, that you. Let's see. Testimonials, phone number placement, and contact form. Good. Love 3 questions for clients to build the testimonial, so that was good. What will you consider a reasonable cost to create a website from scratch? So that's a separate question.
Yeah, that's a great question. And of course, it's very similar to pricing out a house. So obviously there's all kinds of different houses and there's all kinds of different variations on that. To get a custom website, and that would mean that you would sit down with somebody, you would do a strategy session, you would plug in your website into a marketing plan, you'd flush out a marketing plan talking about nurturing and traffic. So the big scope of that. On the very low end, it's anywhere between, it'd probably start right about $3,500 to $4,000 for on the low end of that for maybe just a few pages, but one that still connects and does a lot more. And my goodness, you could go up to I've had a $40,000 website, and that's because it just had a lot of features. So just like a house, if you have a lot of bells and whistles in your house, then the price sometimes goes up with that. But you could expect to start right around, and I would really, there are much less expensive ones. There's also the do-it-yourself, and that's fine. Just have that document and understand that it needs, now that you're armed with this, now you can guide that web designer that it's less about pink and purple stripes on your website, and it's more about, let's talk about my ideal client, let's talk about how we're going to set up a nurturing campaign. So if you can find someone out there that does that in the lower range, great. But if a web designer is not using that terminology, then yeah, I would look at considering someone else. So
that's a really good tip, is to know
yeah,
that your web designer is aware of this
yeah.
as a marketing tool. So nice. Excellent. Jill, I am getting additional thank yous.
Oh, thank
People
you.
are loving the information you gave them. Fabulous conversation today. I will get the email out to everybody with a link to the recording. I'll copy Jill on it so you'll have access to her information, and we're inviting her into our group on LinkedIn as well. So
Yay, see you
yeah,
there.
awesome. Awesome. So thanks everybody and have a fabulous weekend.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.